Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next 60 minutes. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken meets President Volodymyr Zelenskyy in Kiev. Zelenskyy lauds the recent US aid package, asks Blinken for 2 Patriot air defense batteries for Kharkiv.
Equally determined that over time, Ukraine stands strongly on its own feet, militarily, economically.
UK summons Chinese ambassador after 3 men are charged with spying for Hong Kong. China denounces the accusation. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi files nomination from Varanasi Lok Sabha seat for the 3rd time amid a show of strength by the NDA leaders. Opposition leaders, including Congress's Manish Tiwari, files nomination from Chandigarh. And big Hollywood names are set to walk the red carpet for the 77th edition of the Cannes Film Festival in France. Indian entry, All We Imagine as Light, among the 22 films vying for the coveted Palme d'Or. So up first, we get you up to speed with the latest on the world's largest democratic elections in India. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi filed his nomination papers from the Varanasi Lok Sabha seat on Tuesday. Varanasi Lok Sabha seat is a constituency from where Prime Minister Modi has secured wins with huge margins for 2 consecutive terms in 2014 and 2019. Pandit Ganeshwar Shastri, a member of the Brahmin community who is known for determining the auspicious time for the consecration of the Ram temple in Ayodhya, and Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath accompanied the Indian Prime Minister inside the nomination centre. The Indian Prime Minister is seeking a 3rd consecutive term as Member of Parliament from the Lok Sabha seat of Varanasi, which will go to polls on June the 1st in the 7th and final phase of the general elections. The results will be declared on June the 4th. Prime Minister Narendra Modi began his day by offering prayers at the Dashashwamedh Ghat on the banks of river Ganga in Varanasi. Varanasi is a holy city and is a known pilgrimage site for the Hindu for ages. After performing Ganga Aarti and offering prayers to river Ganga on the auspicious occasion of Ganga Saptami, PM Modi then proceeded towards the Namo Ghat on the cruise to offer prayers at the Kal Bhairav temple and seek permission from the deity also known as Kashi's Kotwal, or the guardian deity of the city, to file his nomination papers for a 3rd term. It is believed that anyone who comes to Kashi needs to seek permission from Kal Bhairav for one's visit. So apart from the Indian Prime Minister, various leaders of different political parties filed their nominations on Tuesday, as it is the last date for filing nomination for the 7th and final phase of India's general elections. BJP candidate Kangana Ranaut filed her nomination papers from the city of Mandi in Himachal Pradesh. BJP fielded actress Kangana Ranaut against Congress candidate and Himachal Pradesh Minister Vikramaditya Singh in Mandi. Mandi will go to polls on June the 1st in the final phase of India's elections. Congress candidate Manish Tiwari filed his nomination papers from Chandigarh that will vote on June the 1st, the last phase of the ongoing general elections. Tiwari will face BJP's Sanjay Tandon. Now, after filing nomination in Varanasi, Prime Minister Narendra Modi reached Kodarma in Jharkhand. He held a road show in Kodarma amid the cheerful welcome of the crowd. Crowds here are seen very enthusiastic to be able to witness this road show in Jharkhand of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So staying with our election coverage, DD India's Poll Pulse team is hitting the ground in Lucknow in northern India's Uttar Pradesh. We now bring you an exclusive report filed by our correspondent Sakal Bhatt, who is feeling the pulse of the people there and tracking every twist and turn of this electoral battleground of Uttar Pradesh. A report.
Team Poll Pulse has reached Lucknow. We are here at the iconic Bulbulaya Bada Imam Bara. These are heritage buildings dating back to 18th and 19th century and typically also called the seat of Nawabs or the titular rulers of the Lucknow state.
यूपी तो कम से कम 80% बदल गया। बदलाव क्या है? रोड देख लीजिए, सब साफ सफाई देख लीजिए और गुंडागर्दी तो एकदम ही मैट।
We always choose to our leader who always represent just like our Nawabs. The leaders take care of the all peoples here. We never see like the Hindu or Muslims. Yeah, we want the leader who work here.
मतदान अपने मुद्दों पर करिए जो आपके साथ खड़ा हो सके, आपके काम आ सके, जिससे आपका परिवार जो है खुश रह सके।
जितने भी लोग हैं समाज में बढ़ चढ़ के मतदान करें ताकि अच्छी सरकार का गठन हो सके।
हम चाहते हैं बदलाव हो तो एजुकेशन की तरफ, गरीबी की तरफ, बेरोजगारी की तरफ, क्योंकि अगर बदलाव सियासत से हट के गरीबी, बेरोजगारी और जहालत पर हो तो हमारा सूबा, हमारा प्रदेश, हमारा घर, हमारा मुल्क तरक्की करे।
ऐसा क्यों लखनऊ के बारे में आमतौर पर कहा जाता है कि मुस्कुराएं आप लखनऊ में हैं?
जी, ऐसा इसलिए कहा जाता है मैडम कि लखनऊ की तहजीब ही ऐसी है कि कोई भी लखनऊ का आपको मिलेगा, ऐसा बोलेगा, ऐसा इज्जत देगा कि आप जरूर मुस्कुराएंगे। कर मेरे युवाओं से कहना है जो पहली बार मतदान कर रहे हैं, पहले मतदान करें फिर जलपान करें और ऐसे सदस्य को चुने जो आपके बीच में वो हमेशा रहे, आपकी मदद करे।
The Bharatiya Janata Party has seen the dominance in the last two editions of the Lok Sabha polls, while the opposition, particularly the regional warhouses like Samajwadi Party and the Bahujan Samaj Party, are desperate to bounce back to power along with the other opposition parties like Congress. We will have to wait till the D-Day, the results day, what is going to be the verdict of the Uttar Pradesh's, the largest Indian state, the electorate of Uttar Pradesh. With camera person Aniket Dubey, Sakal Bhatt reporting from Lucknow in Uttar Pradesh for DD India.
And DD India's Sakal Bhatt also traversed through the bustling streets of Lucknow's iconic eateries to get you a flavour and also of the popular sentiment among locals. Take a look.
A popular cliche in Hindi, Delhi ka rasta UP hote hue jata hai, which means road to the power center in Delhi passes through UP. The political saying illustrating the most populous Indian state of Uttar Pradesh with the maximum chunk of Lok Sabha seats plays a very, very crucial role for the national elections. I've been told that the who's who of Lucknow, from top politicians to every tourist who comes to Lucknow, has to have a cup of tea here. मतदान करेंगे, जरूरी है मतदान?
बहुत जरूरी मतदान करेंगे। खाना पीना बाद में खाएंगे, पहले मतदान करेंगे, क्योंकि हम मतदान नहीं करेंगे तो सही नेता को हम जज नहीं कर पाएंगे कौन है। सबको अपना अपना मत का देने का अधिकार है, तो अपने अधिकार का पूरा प्रयोग कीजिए।
उत्तर प्रदेश तो 70-80% बदल गया है, महिलाओं की सुरक्षा की दृष्टि से, बच्चों की पढ़ाई की दृष्टि से, और जो लूट खसोट है वो बहुत कम हुई है। UP has lots of change, lots of the transportation has changed, the security of the basically business class has changed. Main thing business, because business is the economy of the every state. And if the business increases, automatically economy of the state increases.
When you come to Lucknow, besides the Lucknowi biryani and tunde kebab, Lucknow, rather the old Lucknow city, is also very famous for the baturas and the lassi. Come with me and let's enjoy the flavored yogurt ice curd.
मतदान करना इसलिए जरूरी है क्योंकि हमें देश के भविष्य को बनाना है, तो जो देश के लिए काम करें उनको जो है लाना है.
I love Lucknow. I love Lucknow because Lucknow is you smile every day if you are in Lucknow.
We passed through the lanes and bylanes of Lucknow in order to discover and rediscover the old world charm of the city, which is replete with historical legacy. In Lucknow, they call it Nazakat and Nafasat, which means the loveliness, the charm, the beauty and the elegance.
With camera person Aniket Dubey, Sakal Bhatt reporting from Lucknow in Uttar Pradesh for DD India.
So after seeing Lucknow's Nazakat, let's move on and take a look at other stories making news around the world. Italian police on Tuesday uncovered a gang of drug dealers testing a remote-controlled submarine which they were aiming to use for smuggling illegal substances. The organization was based around the northern Italian city of Turin and was allegedly trafficking drugs. Argentina prices continue to climb despite some signs of deceleration as the South American country's annual inflation rate is set to edge closer to 300%. Shopkeepers and consumers said that despite slowing monthly inflation readings since a peak of over 25% in December, that was yet to be fully felt on the ground. Kosovo is using seed-dropping drones as part of an effort to reforest thousands of hectares lost to illegal logging and wildfires. The drone can plant 1 hectare in 2 hours and needs between 2,000 to 5,000 balls made up of seeds surrounded by a mix of clay, sand and waste biomass. Australia released its 2024-25 federal budget bill and its economic forecasts on Tuesday. In his third annual budget since 2022, Treasurer Jim Chalmers pledged more money for renewables, critical minerals and defence, alongside a long-planned cut to income taxes worth an average $1,888 Australian a year for each taxpayer. You're watching DD India News Hour. Still to come on this edition. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken meets Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy in Kiev. Blinken assures Zelenskyy new US weapons have started arriving in Ukraine. More on the way. Fierce clashes continue in Kharkiv as both Russia and Ukraine engaged in intense combat. Multiple raids conducted in a terror funding case in South Kashmir on Tuesday. All that and more on the other side.
Versus facts. In-depth news and analysis with experts who will help you decide why this election matters. DD India is the main election headquarters with numbers most accurate, data most reliable, and viewership across the platforms. Stay tuned to the Great Indian Election only on weekdays at 8:30 p.m. IST and 1500 hours GMT.
Thank you for staying with us. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Tanvi Taneja. On to Europe now. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has met Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy in Kiev on Tuesday. During the meeting, Blinken assured Zelenskyy that a new US weapons package had already started arriving in Ukraine and said that it is going to have an impact on the battlefield in Ukraine.
Your extraordinary resilience, your endurance, your strength, your leadership. And we know this is a challenging time, but we also know that in the near term, the assistance is now on the way. Some of it's already arrived, more of it will be arriving, and that's going to make a real difference against the ongoing Russian aggression on the battlefield. And we're determined, along with many other partners for Ukraine, to make sure that you succeed on the battlefield.
Meanwhile, Zelenskyy lauded the crucial US aid package and asked for 2 Patriot air defense batteries for the northeastern region of Kharkiv.
Thank you for this signal. Also, I wanted to thank you from all my team, all Ukrainians, to crucial package for our forces, for our warriors. We are thankful for bipartisan support. I want to discuss with you about some I think, very important issues. The decision of the package was crucial for us. It's very important to get it as quick as possible. And the second point is air defense, the biggest deficit for us.
Now, DD India's Megumi Lim joins us live for more from Kiev. Megumi, a lot was said today about Ukraine's present, but more importantly about Ukraine's future. How encouraging will Blinken's words be for Ukraine's forces fighting on the ground?
Well, no doubt Blinken's words have brought encouragement and reassurance to the people here in Ukraine, but at the same time, actions, of course, speak louder than words. The period of time where Ukraine did wait for the U.S. Congress to approve additional military aid for the country has been one of the most difficult times of the war for the people here in Ukraine, where Ukrainian troops did lose some territory to Russian forces. And so for Ukrainian forces, they're hoping that military assistance will indeed continue to flow and get delivered to the front lines in a swift manner. This is something that President Zelenskyy stressed during his meeting with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. He said that it was important that these arms deliveries came in a quick and fast, swift manner to the front lines. Now, throwing ahead to the future, however, we are expecting more discussions about U.S. security guarantees for Ukraine during Blinken's visit. Ukraine has been trying to finalize a bilateral security agreement with the United States, and officials here have said that they are close to finalizing this agreement, hopefully by this month. And also, Ukraine is trying to get the help of the United States to shore up support from more countries to back Ukraine ahead of the upcoming Ukraine Peace Summit, which is scheduled to be held in Switzerland next month.
Also, Megumi, Ukraine's biggest deficit for now was in air defense. Do you think what was asked today by Zelenskyy would be sufficient for Ukraine's needs?
Well, last month, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba, who has been tasked to get more air defense systems to Ukraine, he said that Ukraine needs at least 7 Patriot air defense batteries to protect the skies over Ukraine. And so asking for 2 Patriot air defense batteries, of course, will be helpful in protecting certain areas of the country, but it is nowhere near enough to protect more Ukrainian skies. Now, right now, places like central Kiev is very well protected, but cities and areas close to Russia and also close to Russian occupied territories are very, very much exposed. And also, depending on what kind of missile Russia uses, really determines the outcome of whether or not Ukraine can shoot down these missiles. If it is launched from a very nearby location, and if it is a very fast missile, it can bypass Ukraine's air defense systems. So it is not a perfect 100% shield. And we are seeing Ukraine is struggling increasingly to shoot down Russian Russian missiles. Over the past 6 months, Ukraine has only been able to shoot down 46% of Russian missiles as opposed to 73% during the preceding 6 months. So as a result, we have seen Russian forces successfully strike Ukraine's energy grid and really cripple a large portion of Ukraine's energy generating capacity. And so, of course, getting more Patriot air defense batteries to Ukraine is of utmost importance.
Okay, thank you, Megumi, for those updates. My colleague Megumi Lim joining us from Kiev. Now, for the latest on the ground, fierce clashes continue in Kharkiv as both Russia and Ukraine are engaged in intense combat in the region. The Russian Defense Ministry said its forces maintained advantageous positions along the front lines in Kharkiv. The Russian military destroyed multiple targets in the border town of Vovchansk near Kharkiv. It also repelled Ukrainian offensives from various directions. Meanwhile, the General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces reported over 100 battles in the frontline area. The forces targeted Russian electronic warfare systems, command posts and ammunition depots. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said that the forces have reinforced their military presence in the Kharkiv region and are launching counter-offensives. And now let's go across to DD India's Dasha Chernyshova. Dasha joins us from Moscow for more. Dasha, fighting has intensified in Ukraine's Kharkiv in recent days. What is Russia's position about holding the upper hand at the moment?
Well, indeed, we have heard the Russian Minister of Defense confirming on Tuesday that the Russian armed forces have managed to advance further and deeper into the Kharkiv region. Now they report about the capture of yet another village of Bugravatka. This is in addition to another 9 villages that have come under the Russian control since the 10th of May. This is when military analysts say that the Russian intensified attacks on this direction have started. Now we understand from the Ministry of Defense that Russia now has under its control about 200 square kilometers of the territory on this direction, with the main assault coming on the city of Vovchansk as well as the village of Liptsy. These military analysts say are the logistical hubs of the Ukrainian armed forces, and that's why they are so important. Again, we haven't had any comment from the Kremlin on the actions of the Russian military, saying it is the prerogative of the Russian Ministry of Defense to provide any comment on that. Strategy-wise, we haven't heard anything from the MOD besides those reports that are providing the updates on the captures and the activities of the armed forces. But many analysts remind that Russia has been talking about the creation of the so-called sanitary zone in the territory of Ukraine, because Kharkiv region is the one that is bordering Russia's Belgorod region, and Belgorod region is one of those territories in Russia that is seeing constant shelling from the Ukrainian side. Just to remind you, on Sunday, at least 17 people have died as a result of the falling debris of one of the missiles that hit the 10-story building and resulted in the partial collapse of the whole section of this building. So that could also be in play here. But all in all, Moscow is saying that it does have the advantage on the battlefield, and it is planning to maintain that momentum.
Dasha, it's been 2 years that one keeps thinking of, what could end this conflict. Do you see an early end to this conflict, or do you see it dragging on for a considerable length of time as wars of attrition do?
Well, unfortunately, at this moment, we can't see an end in sight, and the reshuffle at the Russian Ministry of Defense, many analysts say, is yet a proof that Russia is preparing for the long haul to be in this conflict. Now, the nominee for the post of Russia's Minister of Defense, Andrei Belousov, who is a veteran economist, has been speaking today at the Council of Federation, and he has been talking about the need to incorporate the military economy into the economy of the country, to increase the efficiency of the military spending. That is obviously not the job that is accomplished in 1 year or in 2 years. That is the job for the long haul. So that could be quite indicative of how long the conflict could last.
Dasha Chernyshova, thank you for those updates. Dasha joining us from Moscow. And now we take a look at what else is happening across India. The Indian Air Force on Tuesday tested Battlefield Health Information System for medical services, a range of portable hospital cubes in the northern city of Agra for airdrop from the aircraft. The maiden test aims to deploy medical services anywhere to cater to emergency situations. The villages of Gobuk and Ramsing in the Upper Siang district of Arunachal Pradesh in India's east are hosting the first edition of the Siang Biodiversity Meet 2024 from May 12th to 18th. The Upper Siang district yielded 10 new moth species which were subsequently documented in the worldwide scientific journal Tropical Lepidoptera Research. Multiple raids have been conducted at multiple locations in a terror funding case in India's South Kashmir on Tuesday. The state investigation agency, with assistance from the Central Reserve Police Force and the local J&K police, conducted these raids at multiple locations, including that of Anantnag, Shopian and Kulgam regions. At least 6 people were killed after their car collided with another vehicle on the Delhi-Lucknow highway in the Garh Kotwali area of Hapur district. Police officials promptly responded to the incident upon receiving the information. They reached the accident site and commenced an investigation into the circumstances surrounding the collision. Still to come on DD India News Hour. US announces a 100% tariff on Chinese-made electric vehicles, the move to protect US manufacturers from cheap imports. India signs a 10-year pact with Iran to operate the Shahid Beheshti port in Chabahar as a connectivity hub linking South Asia and Europe via Afghanistan and Central Asia. Michael Cohen, the prosecution's crucial witness in the Trump hush money trial, returns to court on Tuesday. Trump pleads not guilty.
As India decides in the world's largest election,
we help you feel the pulse of the nation.
I am Sakal Bhatt.
I am Shubhendu Ghosh.
This election season, join us on a journey of India.
We are in Assam. This is the tea city of India.
From down south, Tamil Nadu.
Discover the colors of democracy.
Gateway to northeast of India.
Coastal state of Kerala. Watch Poll Pulse on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Tanvi Taneja. A quick look at the headlines we are tracking at this hour. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken meets President Volodymyr Zelenskyy in Kiev. Zelenskyy lauds the recent US aid package, asks Blinken for 2 Patriot air defense batteries for Kharkiv. UK summons Chinese ambassador after 3 men were charged with spying for Hong Kong. China denounces the accusation. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi files nomination from Varanasi Lok Sabha seat for the 3rd time amid a show of strength by NDA leaders. Opposition leaders, including Congress's Manish Tiwari, files nomination from Chandigarh. And big Hollywood names set to walk the red carpet for the 77th edition of the Cannes Film Festival in France. Indian entry, All We Imagine Is Light, among the 22 films vying for the coveted Palme d'Or, Meryl Streep to get an honorary Palme d'Or at Cannes. So, marking a historic moment in its ties with Iran, India on Monday signed a 10-year contract for operating the Shahid Beheshti port in Chabahar, Iran. It is the closest Iranian port to India. The agreement enables India to expand its footprint in the global supply chain and maritime sector. This is the first time India will take over the management of an overseas port. DD India's Meghna Dev has more.
In a major move to boost regional connectivity and strengthen bilateral partnership, India and Iran signed a long-term contract for the operation of the Shahid Beheshti port in Chabahar. India will develop and operate Iran's strategic Chabahar port for 10 years. The contract has been signed between India Ports Global Limited and Ports and Maritime Organization of Iran. The signing took place in presence of Indian Minister of Ports, Shipping and Waterways Sarbananda Sonowal and Minister of Roads and Urban Development of Iran Mehrdad Bazbash.
दुनिया के सबसे लोकप्रिय नेता प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के निर्देश के मुताबिक आज हम लोगों ने हमारे चबाहार पोर्ट की लॉन्ग टर्म कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में आज हम लोगों ने दस्तखत की है और ये बहुत साल से बातचीत चल रहे थे। इतना दिन तक तो ये शॉर्ट टर्म के थे, तो इसलिए इस पोर्ट के भविष्य को मजबूत बनाने के सिलसिले में और रीजनल कनेक्टिविटी को बढ़ावा देने के लिए प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी का जो विजन है, उस विजन को साकार करने के लिए आज ऐसे एक ऐतिहासिक कदम उठाए गए हैं।
The very clear expectation is that the Chabahar Port, at least that part of the Chabahar Port that we are involved in, that will definitely see more investments. It will see more connectivity linkages coming out of that port. And we believe today that connectivity is a very big issue in that part. International North-South Transport Corridor, which we are doing with Iran, Russia. Chabahar will connect us to that, also to Central Asia. We have a separate corridor, the IMEC corridor through Saudi Arabia.
IPGL will invest approximately $120 million in equipping the port. India has also offered an INR credit window equivalent to $250 million for mutually identified projects aimed at improving Chabahar-related infrastructure. India has so far supplied 6 mobile harbour cranes and other equipment worth $25 million for the development of the first phase of the Shahid Beheshti terminal in cooperation with the government of Iran. India Ports Global Limited has been operating the port since 2018 and has handled traffic of more than 90,000 TEUs of container traffic and more than 8.4 MMT of bulk and general cargo. With the operationalization of India's long-term investment in Chabahar, this port is likely to become an important hub for regional connectivity. The contract will also be able to enhance global trade by providing an alternate trade route to India for Iran, Afghanistan, Eurasia and Central Asian republics. Meghna Dev's report for DD India.
And let's now also understand the significance of Chabahar Port from India's perspective. Chabahar is Iran's only oceanic port situated in Sistan and Balochistan province on the Makran coast and is the closest to India, providing easy and secure access for large cargo ships. The port offers an alternative route that bypasses Pakistan, reducing India's reliance on its neighbour for trade with Afghanistan and beyond. Also, Chabahar Port will boost India's trade and access to Iran. It will further strengthen the International North-South Transport Corridor (INSTC) between India, Iran, Russia, Central Asia and Europe. Last year, India used the port to send 20,000 tons of wheat aid to Afghanistan. This is the first time India will take over the management of an overseas port that will also have a multiplier effect on trade among India, Iran and Afghanistan. India and Iran have projected the port as a key hub for the INSTC project. The INSTC is a 7,200 kilometer long multi-mode transport project for moving freight between India, Iran, Afghanistan, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Russia, Central Asia and Europe. With Chabahar Port becoming functional, there will be a significant boost in the import of iron ore, sugar and rice to India. The import cost of oil to India will also see a considerable decline. More from Europe now. UK's foreign ministry has summoned the Chinese ambassador after 3 people were charged with spying charges for Hong Kong. The trio have been accused of assisting a foreign intelligence service between December and May by agreeing to undertake information gathering, surveillance and acts of deception in Britain. China has firmly rejected and strongly condemned UK's accusation against the Hong Kong government. And for more on the story, we are now joined by DD India's John Beaver from London. John, how serious is the threat posed to the UK by China's alleged cyber and espionage activities?
Well, certainly the UK believes that it is very serious, and a statement that we have seen from the Foreign Office certainly reiterates that, as does the very summoning of the Chinese ambassador to the Foreign Office, which is no small step. That is a very bold statement from the UK in terms of what they have described as a pattern of recent behaviour that is unacceptable. The statement from the Foreign Office goes on to say it includes cyber attacks, reports of espionage links and the issuing of bounties. And the Foreign Office again saying that is not acceptable. So certainly strong words from the UK. And of course, as well as those concerns to do with cyber attacks and these espionage links, we have 3 men appearing in court yesterday. They are charged under the National Security Act, and that is all to do with foreign interference on behalf of the Hong Kong government. So certainly the UK taking this very seriously. As you mentioned, though, the Chinese have been very quick to refute this and coming out with a strong statement themselves. The Chinese ambassador saying the series of accusations against China were unwarranted, going on to describe them as groundless and slanderous. So certainly the two sides not backing down from what they believe are very serious accusations.
Countermeasures that the British Foreign Office is mulling right now?
Well, you would imagine that the next step from here would be the expulsion of diplomats, of members of diplomatic staff. But I think it's important to say that I don't think we're at that step yet. Certainly there has been nothing official that could be coming. You would imagine, though, and in similar situations to this in the past with other foreign powers, certainly that is very much the first thing that happens after the summoning of a high-level diplomat to the Foreign Office. So that might be something to keep an eye out for to start with. But we've also heard from UK politicians who are now using security and things like cyber security as an election issue here as well. We have the Foreign Secretary, Lord Cameron, that's David Cameron, the former Prime Minister. He was setting out saying that actually it's his Conservative Party who are taking this more seriously by upping the amount of money that they will spend on defence, accusing the opposition Labour Party of not having a plan to deal with this. So certainly this is a big issue, and the UK authorities are now turning this into an electoral issue as well. So I would imagine we'll hear more about this in the coming weeks and months.
Interesting. John Beaver in London, thank you for those updates. All right, the White House has announced a 100% tariff on Chinese-made electric vehicles as a measure to protect US manufacturers from cheap imports. US President Joe Biden said that they are imposing more stringent curbs on Chinese goods worth $18 billion. Tariff on electric vehicles will be increased from 25% to 100%. The new measures will impact Chinese imports on computer chips, medical products, steel, aluminium and semiconductors. In 2023, the United States imported $427 billion in goods from China and exported $148 billion to it. DD India's Nick Harper has more on this and has filed this report from Washington, D.C.
Well, this is a huge list of products imported from China that will now face increased tariffs, a dramatic rise in goods worth about $18 billion in total. EVs in particular making the headlines, jumping from 25% tariff to 100% for any Chinese-made electric vehicles entering the United States. Lithium-ion EV batteries rising from 7.5% to 25%. Cells used to make solar panels jumping from 25 to 50%, and then a few other bits and pieces, things that are used in the medical profession, things like syringes and needles rising from 0% to 50%, and PPE jumping from 0% to 25%. We're also told that tariffs on semiconductors over the next couple of years will double from 25 to 50%. And really all of this as a way for the Biden administration to signal to voters less than 6 months before the presidential election that the US president is fighting for US manufacturing, is fighting for US jobs. For a long time, the Biden administration has been pushing back against China, accusing them of unfair trade practices, accusing them of flooding the market with cheap Chinese-made products. The Biden administration saying that these tariffs are needed to protect US economic policies, but also to protect jobs. So fighting for jobs, trying to push these tariffs as a vote winner, but doing so potentially at the expense of relations with Beijing. We have seen in recent months a real attempt from the Biden administration to improve those one-on-one relations with China. We had a phone call just a month ago between US President Joe Biden and China's leader Xi Jinping aimed at trying to stabilize those rocky relations. We've had US officials visiting Beijing for high-level meetings, and yet this latest set of tariffs is undoubtedly going to anger Beijing, potentially undercutting those relations that the US has been trying to stabilize. So pushing in two different directions at the same time, saying to voters, I'm here to protect your jobs, but perhaps doing so at the expense of that relationship with Beijing. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
So remember, it's election season in the United States. And now shifting attention to Donald Trump's hush money trial. Donald Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, returned to court on Tuesday following a day of revealing testimony on Monday. Cohen, the prosecution's crucial witness in this hush money trial, is involved in the first criminal case against a US president in history. Trump, who faces 34 counts of falsifying business records, has pleaded not guilty. DD India's Sally Patterson reports from New York.
On the witness stand Monday, Michael Cohen tried to paint himself as a loyal and obedient employee who did what his then boss, Donald Trump, told him to do under his watchful eye. That includes, he says, making a payment of $130,000 to adult movie star Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 presidential election to try and keep quiet about an affair she said she had with the former president more than a decade before in 2006. Now, Donald Trump has always denied that affair took place. He was married to his wife at the time. Cohen talked the jury through how that payment was made to Daniels and then how he says that money was reimbursed by Trump. He's a key witness for prosecutors in this case who are trying to prove that Trump filed that reimbursement as legal expenses to try and suppress negative stories from coming out in the lead up to the 2016 election. Donald Trump has pleaded not guilty to 34 criminal counts of falsifying business records. His team will likely try and paint Cohen as a liar and as someone who has been convicted of crimes in the past and trying to discredit his testimony. On his way out of court, Donald Trump addressed the media saying what's going on in that courtroom is a threat to democracy. He said, we cannot have a country where we get to prosecute your political opponents instead of persuading voters. He continues to say that this is all a ploy to try and keep him out of the White House. In New York, I'm Sally Patterson reporting for DD India.
Now on to the tensions in the South China Sea. The Philippine Coast Guard has deployed a patrol ship and inflatable boats to deter and monitor Chinese research vessels in the area near what it called the Escuda Shoal. The Philippines said it suspects China could be embarking on a grand strategy to seal off an oil-rich area in the disputed South China Sea before reclamation. It also suspects Beijing to use it as a base to thwart the movements of the Philippine vessels after crushed corals were discovered near the Sabina Shoal. China has carried out extensive land reclamation on some islands in the South China Sea, building air force and other military facilities, causing concern in Washington and around the region. The Philippines, China, Malaysia, Brunei and Vietnam have competing claims in the South China Sea. And still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. India to send $1 million in flood relief assistance to the African country of Kenya. Apple's fiscal year 2025 starts with a remarkable surge in iPhone exports from India. Indian peddler Manika Batra achieves career high ranking of world number 24, becoming the first Indian female to enter into top 25.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India News. I am Tanvi Taneja. The third meeting of the Eminent Persons Group on the future directions of the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral, Technical and Economic Cooperation, this meeting convened in Dhaka, tasked with recommending reforms to invigorate BIMSTEC's role in fostering a prosperous Bay of Bengal region. The EPG deliberated on key agendas including the Bangkok Vision 2030, and aligning BIMSTEC's goals with the Sustainable Development Goals 2030. The discussions also centered on enhancing regional cooperation in sectors such as agriculture, food security, people-to-people contact and connectivity. More from Asia. After several days of intense protests and violence which led to the death of 3 people in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, the protest has now been called off on Tuesday. This was after the Pakistan government accepted their demands and announced a relief package. Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif announced 23 billion Pakistani rupees, that roughly translates to $83 million subsidy package for the people of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Devastating and ongoing flooding in southern Brazil is forcing some of the 500,000 displaced residents to consider moving on to higher grounds. 2 weeks after the onset of torrential rains in the Guaíba River, running by the country's southernmost state, Rio Grande do Sul, is rising again, having passed all-time highs. The disaster has killed at least 147 people, with 127 still missing. The record devastation in Rio Grande do Sul follows floods in the second half of last year, leading many of the 538,000 people displaced from their homes to consider more extreme adaptations. Environmental experts warn that there is no alternative for some towns in the state but to relocate entire neighborhoods. In Indonesia, devastating flash floods are wreaking havoc in West Sumatra province, taking the death toll to 52. 17 people are still missing. More than 3,000 people have been evacuated, authorities said on Tuesday. Rescue and aid operations are underway to help the displaced. Authorities have said that heavy rains are expected until next week, raising alerts about potential flash floods and landslides at least until May 17th to 22nd. The government of India is extending humanitarian assistance to the government of Kenya in the wake of the devastation caused by floods that have hit the country. 38 out of 47 counties have been affected. An estimated 267 people have died, 188 injured, and over 280,000 displaced. A relief consignment is being airlifted today on an Indian Air Force plane that comprises 22 tons of humanitarian assistance and disaster relief items, including tents, sleeping bags, ready-to-eat meals, and immediate succor to the people of Kenya. It also contains about 18 tons of medical aid. This includes baby food, water purification, and menstrual hygiene. Indian naval ship INS Sumedha had earlier reached Mombasa on 10th May to extend immediate relief assistance. This assistance is a reiteration of India's strong and friendly relations with Kenya. Apple's fiscal year 2025 has started with a remarkable surge in iPhone exports from India. Exports of iPhones produced in the country nearly doubled in April this year, reaching $1.1 billion as compared to $580 million a year ago. Experts anticipate that exports will breach the mark of 1 trillion rupees in the fiscal year 2025. Currently, iPhones are exclusively manufactured in India and China, with experts projecting that 14 to 15% of production is already shifted to India. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak attended a torch of commemoration lighting ceremony in London on Tuesday. The ceremony marks the beginning of the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings along the Normandy coast during the Second World War. Rishi Sunak accepted the torch from the Commonwealth War Graves Commission Director General Claire Horton before handing it to a 99-year-old D-Day war veteran. The D-Day operation that took place on June 6th in 1944 was the largest seaborne and airborne assault in military history. The prestigious Palme trophy was given a rare outing on Tuesday morning ahead of the opening ceremonies of this year's Cannes Film Festival. The Palme d'Or, a golden palm tree branch on a transparent rock crystal base, has been made by the Swiss jeweler Chopard for 27 years. The trophy, which features 19 golden leaves and a heart-shaped stem, is based in the Chopard Swiss atelier and is entirely ethical. Several superstars, including Emma Stone, Meryl Streep, Chris Hemsworth, Selena Gomez, Adam Driver and Sebastian Stan are expected to appear at the red carpet for this year's Cannes Film Festival. And time now for all the sporting action in DD India News Hour. In some great news for Indian sports fans and especially table tennis fans, Indian peddler Manika Batra has achieved a career-high ranking of world number 24, becoming the first Indian female to enter top 25 in world rankings. In the latest ITTF rankings, Manika jumped 15 places from number 39 to become world number 24. She reclaimed her India number 1 place from Shrija Akula. Manika Batra also matched the world number 24 ranking achieved by Satya Gyanashekaran, who is currently at world number 65 in 2019. Manika's ranking jump came on the back of her quarterfinal finish in the Saudi Smash event last week, where she registered an upset win over top Chinese player and Olympic medalist, world number 2, Wang Manyu, in the round of 32. She then defeated world number 14 Nina Mittelheim of Germany to make it to the quarterfinal, where Manika eventually lost to world number 5 Hina Hayata of Japan. And Delhi Capitals will take on Lucknow Super Giants at home in the 64th match of the Indian Premier League IPL Cricket 2024 clash, with the playoff race heating up with both sides in contention. The game will be of huge relevance in the league as both sides are on the brink of elimination. Delhi lost their last game against Royal Challengers Bangalore by 47 runs and made things worse for themselves. Their next run rate has taken a hit and they need a massive win to stay alive in the tournament. Lucknow Super Giants are not in any better position either. The Lucknow-based franchise went down to Sunrisers Hyderabad in their previous game by a huge margin, and Lucknow Super Giants conceded a chase of over 160 runs in a little over 10 overs without claiming a single wicket. And on to football now. Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola said that the club must win when they visit the North London side on Tuesday after having lost all 4 Premier League matches. Second with 85 points from 36 matches, City are 1 point behind Arsenal. A win at the Spurs would give City the advantage before they go into the league's final weekend. They seek a record 4th title in a row now. Guardiola's side have won their last 7 Premier League matches, scoring 28 goals and conceding 5. So that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And you can also catch all the latest news and updates on the go on our DD India mobile app. We will be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from my entire team in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.